The Out of Bounds Show podcast is brought to you by Boar's Head, premium meats, cheeses, and hummus. Boar's Head, compromise elsewhere.
Hey guys, Pickens Jackson.
All systems go.
Live from the Whiskey 61 Lounge inside the Bank Plus studio.
This is Out Warning.
Live in the studio. It's the Out of Bounds Show with Low Bounds. Streaming live worldwide on the Out of Bounds radio app. And on your radio at ESPN 105.9.
All set? Let's go.
The Zone.
Woo! All right. Back in the Bank Plus studio on a Thursday. And it's game day. How about that? Dallas Cowboys, Pittsburgh Steelers. Tonight, Pro Football Hall of Fame, Canton, Ohio. You'll at least watch 5 minutes of it.
Yeah, you damn right.
I've always said this, on a game like this, and good morning, welcome in, the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. On a game like tonight, the best part of it is the 20 minutes leading up to it. So, go ahead and get you something fun on the grill, get your beverage of choice, whether it's Dr. Pepper or Modelo, and sit back and enjoy some of the commentary. And then after you give it about 5 to 10 minutes, that puts you on about 30 minutes. And then you'll realize that it's crappy football, but you'll still be excited. Right? Yeah. So it is game day. Little Cowboys Steelers at 7 o'clock on Fox. Does that mean we get Joe Buck and Troy Aikman?
Ooh, baby.
Okay. I guess so. I would have to believe that it does. Troy Aikman will introduce the legend himself, maybe my favorite football coach ever. And that would be Jimmy Johnson, who won 2 titles at Blake's Dallas Cowboys and won big with the Miami Hurricanes. And Aikman will call the game tonight with Joe Buck. Then they'll have a big, big party. Jerry Jones's party is going to be the best party. Like the Lions, you already know they're not going to throw the best party. They can't do anything right. You just don't have any confidence that even, like the Dolphins, if they had somebody go in, even though the Dolphins haven't been any good for 20-something years, you'd be like, oh, they're from South Beach. They'll still throw a cool party. As cool as you can get in Canton, Ohio, right? And tonight you feel confident that Jerry Johnson, I'm sorry, I just combined those. Jerry Jones will throw a great party for Jimmy Johnson, Drew Pearson, and there's one other guy. Blake, who is it?
For the Cowboys?
I thought there was 3. Kind of like a guy like Jimmy that got in late.
Drew Pearson is very late, but I don't know.
Yeah. That's all right. It's no big deal. It's all
Roger
good.
Staubach is introducing
which
Drew,
is really cool.
and then Troy's introducing Jimmy. So there will be a lot of elite Hall of Fame talent for the Cowboys there.
Well, everybody hang on, because Blake already dropped elite, and it's not even 7:05. So we really feel like this show is taking off, and we're ready to go. Now, there's also some discussion around Joe Burrow's knee injury. We'll play that a little bit later.
Yeah, there's bad discussion.
See, I was getting all excited. I hope Joe – I wish all these guys well. I hope Joe Burrow, who played at LSU, is okay. But, hey, Dak's been on the sideline for a week, which I think is good that they've held him. Maybe they'll hold him another few days and not, they won't go. Now that they're playing Thursday, players will have off, at least Friday and Saturday?
Well, no,
maybe?
they scrimmaged the Rams Saturday in a practice, like a training camp scrimmage against Sean McVay. He was just talking about that yesterday on Doug Gottlieb's show. Rams and the Cowboys play Saturday in a practice scrimmage.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I heard Sean McVay talking about that.
Yeah, and Sean McVay,
he doesn't play his starters at all in the exhibition games.
Not his skill position starters.
Yeah. How about that?
It's smart. He said, why?
They asked him about Matthew Stafford, and he said, as long as I'm coach, he will not take a snap. I just in an exhibition game. Now, in those practices that Blake just referenced, he will play. He also talked about how he made his he said, fool me once, not going to fool me twice. Matthew Stafford came down hard on a helmet, and a lot of the NFL teams had already gone to the cushion on top of the helmet, especially, I guess, for the defensive players, but maybe for everybody. And he was asked, so Matthew Stafford comes down. You know, when you're throwing full speed, boom, you just threw the pass. You're coming down, bam, he hits a defensive player's helmet. And at times, depending on what's going on, a quarterback can, mess up his hand, his fingers, whatever. And they're the most valuable fingers on the team, hand on the team. And that'd be a good segment. Most valuable fingers on the team. All right. And McVay shared with Doug Gottlieb, because Gottlieb said, "Well, did you change after that? Did you start putting the padding on top of the helmet?" Oh yeah, we did that. Can you imagine how fast that happened?
Yeah,
because they've only got like 70 equipment managers in the NFL. I had several friends that have been head equipment managers for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, New England Patriots, and so on, because of the sports management program that I went through. And a lot of those guys started right off the bat with NFL teams, Buccaneers, Chiefs, Patriots, among others. Pretty cool deal. And can you imagine how fast those helmets got padding on them?
They had them on before the next practice.
Incredible.
No doubt.
Wow.
Yeah,
you probably don't find that stuff at Dick's Sporting Goods, but maybe you do.
I know we do this every season, but man, it's always a scary time now till the weekend after Labor Day, because it's just a hold your breath moment with your elite talent.
Yeah.
Already lost. Wentz is out 12 weeks, it looks like.
Well, 5 to 12.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not going to, even if it takes him 6 or 7 to rehab, he's not coming back right away ready to go. So I think it'll be, with a team he's never played with. The point is you're seeing guys left and right. You get hesitant with these preseason games, and it makes you go, look, they're going to get rid of him eventually.
Oh, that's why they've cut them down already.
Yeah.
What is it this
3,
year? 2?
I think it's 3.
Okay.
It? Yeah.
All right.
So you've got 3 instead of 4.
We should ask who do we have listening that's a degenerate gambler and betting on the game tonight? Cowboys, Steelers, 7:00. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman. Dak won't play. I don't even know if Roethlisberger will take a few snaps. That'd be interesting, I guess, with to see what direction the Steelers go. Mike Tomlin and your Pittsburgh Steelers. Live in the Bank Plus studio, several different ways that you can hit us up. The Mississippi Ag John Deere Tractor text line is 601-885-3776. Twitter handle @BowBounds, and the Farm Bureau Insurance call-in line is 601-707-3750. We're going to have Steve Palazzolo on NFL QBs at 8:30. Who do we have at 9:15?
We have new Mississippi State beat writer, I guess, Chrissy Freud with Sports Illustrated. She covers the Titans, has for 6 years, and
awesome.
She is new to Sports Illustrated SI Bulldogs on Twitter. Mm-hmm. But she is a new Mississippi State coverage writer. She just moved to Starkville a week ago, and so we're going to have Chrissy at 9:15 today.
All right, cool. Well, we're looking forward to that.
New voice on SEC football there.
Yeah.
So
our guest will join us on the Modelo guest line. I thought yesterday went well with the chicken wings.
They weren't raw and they weren't burned. So
there you go.
Sounds like they were perfect.
They were good.
Seasoning is fantastic.
Seasoning was good. Tucker learned a little bit.
He did learn.
Yeah.
Learned a lot.
Yeah. So he manned up and took over the grill.
Proud of him.
That way he'll cook wings this fall at Ole Miss.
We're gonna have.
That's the gift that we gave him.
We will have to make sure we get the first we get evidence of when he hosts his first.
That's a good point.
Because I expect him to you don't come to the Out of Bounds show as an intern and leave without practical real life skills.
Exactly.
You got to put them in play. I don't care what you did in practice. Now go win the game.
This is a PhD in critical thinking, right? We don't even think about undergrad or the masters. It's a PhD in critical thinking when you're hanging out on the Out of Bounds show. Powered by the Golden Moon Casino Sportsbook, an award-winning Dancing Rabbit Golf Club. Yes, the Golden Moon Casino Sportsbook has been renovated. It was already cool. Now it's super, super cool. The Golden Moon Casino Sportsbook, Pearl River Resort. Download the PRR Sports app now.
Swoochie Boochie, good morning.
The Out of Bounds Show podcast is presented by Edwin Watts Golf Shop on County Line Road. Your golf game starts with Edwin Watts Golf Shop.
Board. What's on the big board?
I have to say this. Y'all know if you've been listening to the show this week that I'm pretty pumped up about the Hall of Fame speeches because I think it's cool to hear, Peyton Manning and Charles Woodson and Jimmy Johnson and Calvin Johnson and Troy Polamalu and all these guys that are going in the NFL to talk about their life and their career. And, a lot of them will cry and all this stuff. I mean, I don't need that much of it, but some emotion is cool. I'm okay with a little bit. And after listening to Peyton Manning this week on Pardon My Take or something, and he did great. He's just so good at being interviewed where so many guys are not. I'm reading this article on theathletic.com and Troy Aikman is telling a story about Jimmy Johnson. And y'all, I know we've shared some, but this one is so good. So they were in Dallas and they lost to Washington, and they weren't supposed to lose at Washington one year. They ended up winning the Super Bowl, but they didn't know that then.
Incredible.
Okay? And it's the week before Christmas. And they go up and they play at that point the Washington Redskins. And y'all know that's a division game, right? So that's a big deal. It's like when, Ole Miss and Mississippi State play or something. Kind of like that at the collegiate level. And Troy's like, man, Jimmy was PO'd after the game in the locker room after they lost to the Redskins. I mean, he was mad. And he said, we had gotten used to winning. And so they get on the flight, and by now, they're chartering flight, or at least Jerry is, okay, in the NFL, which is amazing because Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, if you were a businessman in the 80s, you could see them in an airport. You may sit within a seat or two of them. I know. It's insane how quick that turned, or how fast that turned. So the next week is a couple days later is the Christmas party for the Cowboys, and Jimmy Johnson hosts it at his house. And all of Aikman's teammates are like, we're not going. Coach just wore us out today in meetings about the game 2 days ago. We're not going. And Aikman's like, well, what do I do? And he said, I'm the quarterback. I have to represent the team. Christmas party. So he said, I go. And he said, Jimmy Johnson, who is the coach of the Dallas Cowboys at this time, is still pretty hot. Okay, and he had just gotten through ripping the players in the meetings that day. And Aikman's like, it's just a bad situation. He's ticked. He uses different language in here. He says, Coach Johnson's ticked. We're ticked. He's not happy with us. I'm at the Christmas party, and Jimmy goes, hey, man, what do you know about fish aquariums? And Troy's like, what? It's random. And he goes, fish aquariums, fish tanks. I've got these fish tanks. And, Jimmy loves South Florida and loves to fish and da-da-da. And Troy's like, what are we doing? But this is better than him, being all mad. So he's taking Troy Aikman through his home in Dallas with his girlfriend at that time, Rhonda, Jimmy Johnson's girlfriend, Rhonda, who's now his wife, who has been his wife, by the way, for a while. And he goes, all right, well, that's cool. He says, a week later, Jimmy comes up to me and says, hey, let's go get you a fish tank. You said you always wanted one, and so let's go get one. Well, you say that when you're with your coach or somebody that maybe slightly above you, or you're just trying to agree with a client, whatever. And Aikman's like, all right, That sounds good. So we go together. This is funny. Can you imagine being in Dallas?
Jimmy Johnson and
Yeah.
Troy Aikman walking into an aquarium
they're
shop?
about to win
Are
their
you
I don't know.
serious?
I think it's their first Super Bowl, second Super Bowl, and these two yahoos are in whatever at that time would have been a
PetSmart.
yeah. I mean, I guess maybe they had one. We didn't get one until 25 years later. But the point is, they're in there, and he's like, all right. He picks everything out, and they put. Here's what's great. They build it together. Can you imagine building your fish tank or aquarium? That, hey, we're going to build a fish tank together. My head coach. So they do it, and Jimmy does everything. And then all of a sudden, on several occasions after Friday practices, Jimmy would be like, hey, let's go get some fish and put them in your tank. And Troy's like, I don't really want to hang out with you. He said, now fast forward, we won the Super Bowl and we're in the 93 season. And we're like friends, but I'm still his quarterback. And he goes, I remember this one Tuesday. Tuesdays are our day off. And I'm at my house. I wouldn't have answered my phone. I mean, by then, at least you had caller ID. But remember, that was a big deal. We got caller ID in high school, and you could, like, see who was calling you. And he goes, Troy Aikman's like, it's a Tuesday. Tuesdays are our day off. And Jimmy Johnson calls and says, hey, Troy, it's Jimmy. Are you at your house? Yeah, I'm at the house. Well, I'm just cruising around with Rhonda. That's his girlfriend at the time. I just want to stop by and check out your aquarium.
Incredible.
So Aikman's like, well, come on over. So Jimmy would come over with a cooler of Heineken. And they would sit out in his bedroom because that's where the aquarium was in Troy's house.
So weird.
With the cooler of Heineken, and they would look at the tank and drink Heinekens and talk about fish. And Troy wraps it up with, I'm thinking this is just kind of bizarre right now.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yep. Just proves that all good coaches are weirdos. They're just bizarre individuals.
Yeah, and that was his way for a man who couldn't check out. That was the one thing that he could get into was
so odd.
Fish. He's not in Miami at the time. He's in Dallas. So he doesn't have the water to go on to like he did as the Dolphins coach. He could step right on his boat when he was a Dolphins coach.
Or Hurricanes coach,
and fish for 45 minutes just to kind of, unwind and figure out what in the heck, like all of us, is going on in your life.
Oh, that's incredible.
So, yeah, on a Tuesday of your day off, your head coach calls you and says, hey, you want to sit in your bedroom with Heinekens and look at your fish aquarium? Break it down? I mean, you already have to be with me all week because I'm your head coach. Yeah, that sounds awesome. How many of you want your boss to call you on your day off? Let's take this to you. How many of you want your boss to call you on your day off and come in your house and he or she is intrigued with something in your house and break it down and hang out with you?
Not just he set up the aquarium for Troy. Like that's the weird. Like this is
he picked out all the fish.
Yeah,
they picked out the aquarium and they built it together.
That's so weird.
And they figured, I guess Troy at some point said, "Well, I have to have it." Troy was single forever. He was Derek Jeter, but he didn't have the mojo in game. But he was single for years and years and years. So Aikman is single, has some kind of batch pad in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and Jimmy Johnson wants to hang out with him on his Tuesdays off.
That's so weird.
And Aikman may be thinking, hey, I want to get a really big to-go order from Morton's and hang out either with a female or a buddy and kind of kick it, in the kitchen or living room or the patio. But the guy who has coached me this hard to this point, now we're Super Bowl champs, a little bit different deal. That is so good. And so I'm loving that. Troy Aikman will introduce the man, the myth, and the legend. Probably top 5 coach of all time. When you win like that at Miami and win like that with the Cowboys, and you're that good at personnel and evaluating, and that good of a community. I mean, he checked all the boxes. Jimmy Johnson. He could evaluate like crazy at Miami and the Cowboys. Was playing chess when everybody was playing checkers in the NFL as far as making roster moves. Nobody knew what they were doing. And And then he built a squad that just hammered people on both sides of the ball, right? A lot of coaches can get it right on one side. Can you get it right on both sides of the ball? SEC Insider Hit coming up next. Brought to you by Mississippi Ag and your next John Deere tractor at Mississippi Ag.
The Out of Bounds Show podcast is powered by Breezy Oaks Ranch. For Mississippi-raised premium Wagyu beef and heritage pork shipped straight to your door, visit breezyoaksranch.com.
All right. We've got some great audio. I mean, if you're ready for the Oklahoma Bull in the Ring drills, then we have some great jock strap Jason audio. And I just want to know for y'all listening, are y'all going to double jock strap this year? Because I feel like Dan Campbell, who's the head coach for the Detroit Lions, is going to go not one but two jock straps. How miserable were those things to wear? Man, I'm glad I don't have to wear those anymore. I just thought about that.
You don't wear yours every day at the studio?
No, but maybe I need to for game weeks.
You'll be strapped in.
Yeah, you got to strap in, son. All right. Your SEC Insider Hit this morning is brought to you by Mississippi Ag. And those are the great folks that you visit when you're looking for your next John Deere tractor. John Deere, America's tractor at Mississippi Ag. 2 locations, Canton and Pearl. AgUp.com to find a retail location nearest you. There's 2 here in the metro area, Canton and Pearl. Mississippi Ag for your next John Deere tractor to manage your land, or John Deere lawnmower. Mississippi Ag text line is 601-885-3776. Najee Harris, his debut with the Steelers.
Dark horse rookie of the year, baby.
It's going to be Elijah Moore.
But he's already on. I'm saying he's on that list.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
NFL loves giving it to running backs. Saquon won. I mean, you see it all the time, man.
Well,
you see guys like that. Win
will
it all
a
the time.
quarterback be in the mix? Will Trevor Lawrence be in the mix?
Justin Fields.
Mac Jones, doubt it. But, Zach Wilson.
There's a chance.
From BYU now throwing passes to Elijah Moore with the New York Jets.
Will we see Trey Lance in San Francisco? Hot talk coming out of 49ers
Not sure
camp.
we will, but maybe we will sooner than later. It will be interesting to see what Jimmy G can pull together. And boy, you just get the sense, don't you, that these young, the Kyle Shanahans and Sean McVay, they just have no patience.
Nope.
I mean, McVay already ran Jared Goff out
after he paid a fortune to get him.
And Shanahan is just ready to run Garoppolo out of town.
Yeah.
It's unreal, man. Those new young offensive coaches, for better or worse, it's not always going to work out for them. But I think that is the new wave of coaches. If they don't think they have an elite quarterback, you're gone.
Yeah.
Next, and it's what Steve Palazzolo talks about. I think you need to do it at the high school and college level too, but I understand it's different balance there. But you have to bring in enough guys. I mean, you have to find a guy who can play. I just think that I think that is the new what Palazzolo with Pro Football Focus tells us every time is you keep drafting QBs until you get one that works.
And then you draft them to trade them. He even says that.
Absolutely. Which Jimmy Johnson was doing back in the early 90s.
Yep.
Jimmy Johnson, who's going into the Hall of Fame this weekend, had Troy Aikman, and yet he drafted Steve Walsh out of Miami, the U, where Jimmy had been just a few years prior. And then he flips Steve Walsh, who is a borderline backup. This is how Jimmy was playing chess while the rest of the league was playing checkers. He flips Walsh for like 2 first-round picks in a second, or 1 first and 2 seconds. I mean, he was just playing with people, kind of like Billy Beane was for a minute before the GMs figured it out and were like, we're not really going to do anything with you anymore. But today, and you think about the way Jimmy was approaching the game in 89, 90, 91, leading into the Cowboys winning a couple of Super Bowls. But I think it's like that today. I mean,
Yes.
you got to go find a QB. And you have to have a guy at that. You know, when I was growing up, it wasn't even the featured position on the field. It's incredible. Yeah, you know, I mean, high school football wasn't that interesting, but when you were either playing or there watching, it just, you know, they weren't doing a whole lot.
No.
And
It's still that way in a large portion of the country, I think, where you're still not doing a ton.
yeah, but man, if you've got a guy who can throw it a little bit at the high school level and do some things, but at the college level, we know by what Ole Miss and Mississippi State have done. If you have, it doesn't have to be an NFL QB, but if you have a really good college quarterback, man, that is the cheat code.
Absolutely.
Like Steve Palazzolo taught, you know, Dak was the cheat code. Bo Wallace was the cheat code. Chad Kelly, Fitz, you know, now Matt Corral. We'll see with Will Rogers. I think, you know, he can be more than pretty good at that position. But
what you see in Starkville specifically, because I think Ole Miss has obviously had much more pedigree of talent at the position. A lot of times you can manipulate.
Are you taking a shot at Michael Hennig?
Yeah. My bad, Mike. 7 interceptions against LSU, Mike.
Tyson Lee.
Dude, Tyson Lee and I are the same size. I just want you to
Kroom looked at Greg Byrne after losing 45-0
and said straight faced,
we're
good.
And he said, "What? I don't know exactly the way that Byrne framed up the question."
Yeah.
But he said, "No, we're going to roll with what we've been doing."
Yeah. What changes are you going to make to be
spring?
better?
And Greg went home and didn't sleep and called him in the next morning and made one of the best decisions in the history of
everyone.
Mississippi State football.
Yeah, Dan Mullen took a guy like Chris Relf and won major games at the SEC. It proves that to some extent it is about the clay, but it's also about the potter, right?
Right.
Sean McVay, Sean Peyton, even Belichick, who's not necessarily an offensive guy, but he's been able to utilize offensive guys in his own intelligent mind to create the system that won 6 Super Bowls.
Sure.
Like Andy Reid. Andy Reid can take a guy like Alex Smith and be a play away from the title game and then also have the wherewithal to get rid of him for an unproven Patrick Mahomes.
And that's what's special.
Because it got him over the hump.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, other coaches fall in love with a guy like that.
And you never leave off Alex Smith.
Yeah, and you just continue to kind of go in the playoffs and lose either first round or in the wild card or maybe win one game. And Andy Reid looked at it and said, we have to be special at this position. And they win a Super Bowl and go to another one.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears. Out of Bounds, brought to you by Mississippi Ag. That's where you get your next John Deere tractor. Manage your land at Mississippi Ag with your next John Deere tractor and or John Deere lawnmower. Want to say good morning. Welcome in. We are the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone. I'm your host, Bo Bounds. We'll have Steve Palazzolo at 8:30. Steve Palazzolo, Pro Football Focus, best NFL site out there, pff.com. And Chrissy Freud, who is now a Hail State insider with Sports Illustrated. And she just did a piece with Mike Leach on running backs. And she'll do a lot of other cool stuff. I think did she go to LSU, Blake? She's from Baton Rouge?
Yeah, she covered LSU. She didn't go to LSU,
Gotcha.
but she covered LSU and still covers the Titans remotely for somebody.
That's cool. All
So,
right.
yeah, she's done that for 6 years. So now, got a little Ole Miss and State flavor in Nashville.
Little Ole Miss and State flavor. Jeffrey Simmons, A.J. Brown.
There you go, baby.
Yeah. Okay, I got you. All right, let's go to some really delicious audio this morning. Dan Campbell is the new, somehow, I don't know how, the Ford family. I do, actually. They've tripped over themselves for decades. But they hired Dan Campbell, the assistant head coach and tight ends coach for the New Orleans Saints under Sean Payton. And, Dan Campbell is the gift that keeps on giving when it comes to audio. And Dan was in the press conference yesterday, day before, and he tells you how he starts his day with this coffee. This is phenomenal.
I'll get 2 venti. I go to, Starbucks. I get 2 venti with 2 shots in them. So black eye in both. That's what I come in with. That's how I start the day. So
He makes the noise of the shot.
How about that?
No.
That's what makes the
Exactly.
that's what makes the audio.
He's such a character, man.
I know.
He's so non-buttoned up, which
Right.
is which is fun.
Yeah, and maybe he's the one to figure out the code in Detroit after 40 plus years of losing. I doubt it, but maybe. I mean, they have Jared Goff now. I don't think that does a whole lot for any of you, those that know who Jared Goff is. But Dan Campbell is the head coach for the Detroit Lions and was an assistant under Sean Peyton. I mean, Sean's considered one of the sharpest, baddest, best coaches on the planet. Just an absolute freak. And then this is what you get from the Sean Payton coaching tree. Now, let's drop do the coffee thing one more time. Because the sound
I'll get
effects.
2 venti. I go to, Starbucks. I get 2 venti with 2 shots in them. So black eye in both. That's what I come in with. That's how I start the day. So
We're just going to start every show just with.
Well,
So-
that's a good way to stay regular. Out of bounds, 105.9 The Zone. That was Dan Campbell, the head football coach for the Detroit Lions. You know, the Detroit Lions that y'all watch on Thanksgiving, don't watch any other time.
Unless you bet.
This is what he gave us a couple of months ago, because now the Detroit Lions are the fighting kneecap biters of the NFL.
all right. And so this team's going to be built on, we're going to kick you in the teeth. All right. And when you punch us back, we're going to smile at you. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off. All right. And we're going to stand up. And then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. All right. And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap and we're going to get up. And then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
Yeah. Football.
Can you believe that there are still people like that in football? It's almost, I can, because it is still a very meatballian sport that we love, right? Modern day gladiators, all that. And it's come so far and refined and advanced and super cool. But do you realize how many smart people are in the game today? I mean, like, off the charts smart, right?
But that's still a small percentage.
Think of Mike Leach's brain. BYU, Pepperdine Law School. All you have to do is spend 5 minutes with him and know that, he's like crazy smart. Sean Payton, super smart.
Sean McVay, we talked about him.
Nick Saban,
Very smart, yeah.
Jimmy Johnson, who's going into the Hall of Fame, is super smart, right?
But isn't that a small percentage of your overall coaching?
But in the NFL, I could go like a lot. Like I could go Belichick. I could go, John Harbaugh. I could go Andy Reid. I could go Sean Payton. I could go Pete Carroll. I could go McVay. I can go Shanahan. I can go pretty deep.
Each one of those coaches has 20 coaches on his staff, and odds are of those 20, only 2 are in the same vein as their head coach, right?
But how many Dan? All right, that's what I'd like to know. I don't know about that though.
That's my
I'm not
question.
Familiar enough. I want to know how many Dan Campbell. I get the high school and college level. Okay,
Yeah.
I want to know how many Dan Campbells there are, percentage-wise.
Who else fits
on each NFL staff?
Who else
Because
fits that?
there are guys that are off the crazy. There are guys that could be engineers and CPAs and
Joe Brady when he was under Sean Payton, right? Like he would fall into that category. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
And Carmichael and Lombardi under Payton are super smart. Very
absolutely.
Now on the Mississippi Ag text line, CWR may have won the text line on ESPN 105.9 The Zone for the month of August. Because after listening to Dan Campbell audio, and Dan Campbell is our official Bull in the Ring coach for 2021. Now, we may have more. I mean, Ed Ogeron's in the Hall of Fame. But CWR on the Mississippi Ag text line Dan Campbell is the educated, well-spoken Ed Ogeron.
Good.
Nailed it.
That's so funny.
Nailed it. Oh, my goodness
That's
gracious.
So good, dude. That's so good.
That's good. So, yeah, I think y'all all needed that with football season around the corner. Football is so – I guess this is every industry. I think it is, right? Or just about. I mean, it may not be in, like, high-level physics, but – and I don't even know what that is. So, but every industry has those people who are buttoned up and they're super off-the-chart cerebral and, you know, again, refined and just, man, they're playing it. They're swimming. They're swimming with the best of the best. But then that industry has people like Ed Ogeron and Dan Campbell who make it. Well, who make it. Don't get me wrong. Who make it and are a big piece of the puzzle for their company. But they're just a little rough around the edges, right? They're out there like a Dan Campbell. I mean,
the Browns hired Freddie Kitchens.
But that's the Browns.
I know. What's the Lions?
Right.
I mean, yeah, it's the same thing.
I think the way to put this is, can you believe that the Saints hired Sean Peyton? That's what's also incredible, Blake, after hiring pretty much terrible coaches since 1967.
John Gruden's more Dan Campbell than he is Sean Payton, right?
There's no question. Yeah. Have you looked at what Gruden's done the last 3 years with the Raiders? He hadn't run the playoffs. In the NFL, you get fired. And
not
unless
when
you have a stupid contract.
$10 million a year.
Well, Mark Davis made a terrible deal.
Well, he felt like he needed to follow in the footsteps.
I mean, John Gruden's been an absolute and total failure for the Raiders. You don't rebuild.
Yeah, they went on like
all
a
these
7-game
rosters
losing.
are the same, guys. I mean, we do know that, right? What's today? August 5th? All these rosters are the same in the NFL. I mean, 98.8% of these players are interchangeable. I mean, you fall in love with them because it's your team and that's great, or they're really good on fantasy. But, you know, other than quarterbacks and maybe a few other dudes, all these guys are, I mean, we'll flip him from the Rams to the Broncos and flip him from the Saints to the, you know, to the Cowboys, and we'll flip him from the Bears to the Bengals. No difference. No difference. Your team didn't get better or worse.
John Gruden's Raiders have gone 4-12, 7-9, 8-8. And have
that is awful.
And have a 3-year point differential of 265 or so.
They have a what?
3-year point differential of negative 265.
Yeah.
They've been outscored 117, 106, and 44.
So he walked in with a good, not great. We don't have to call him great. We don't have to call him special. He walked into a good quarterback in the NFL. What would Andy Reid have done? 10-6. Sean Payton, 10-6. Bill Belichick, 10-6. John Harbaugh, 10-6. Probably McVay, Shanahan would have gone to the playoffs in their first 3 years. 10-6 or better. Among probably Nagy, maybe at the Bears, LaFleur at the Packers. I mean, we could go on and on. Stefanski with the Browns, who is considered like this big time coach for the Cleveland Browns. And John Gruden has won 4, 7, and 8 games. Is that what you just told me?
Yeah.
4, 7. That's an absolute and total failure, by the way, in the NFL. But because he's machismo, testosterone, meatball, you know, da-da-da-da-da, people love him. He resonates. People love him.
You got to be a grinder.
He's been awful.
You got to be a Gruden grinder.
Who listening thinks that the Raiders are going to make the jump over the Chiefs in that division with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid?
No, they're the third best team right now, and the Broncos, if they could figure out their quarterback situation, would jump them. I mean, the Chargers are better with Herbert, so it's Chiefs-Chargers, and then it's like, what day is it between the Broncos and the Raiders, right?
Right. Let's switch gears to Peyton Manning. He did an interview, pardon my take, and he is so good. And, you know, he's just his approach with media, he'll actually give you something in a day and age when most coaches and players give you nothing, and they're absolutely and totally boring. I have been watching a lot of the NFL Network, and that is a great way to drain your brain. I mean, the interviews are just mind-numbing. And Peyton Manning is on this show this week, and he is sharing his approach to the game and why he thinks he outworked people. And he mentioned Newman High School, Tennessee, and, of course, the Colts and the Broncos. And they asked him a really good question. They said, did you really believe that you had outworked everybody? And he said, I had. He said, whether that was true or not, I could never know. But he said, my approach week to week was, if we're playing the Broncos, let's say he's with the Colts, we're playing the Broncos that week, I have to be more prepared than anybody in their defensive room, any coach, any player, and so on. And he said, I'll never forget in my career, a quarterback that we were playing was talking about our Indianapolis Colts defense. And after the game, he said, they had never run that blitz. And he said, I caught a snippet of it after the game, and he said, I thought to myself, well, our defense had run that blitz, but we ran it in a preseason game. And he said, then and there I decided that I would never be at the podium. He was already a worker, okay? But he said, I would never be at the podium post-game with the Indianapolis Colts and say, well, the Pittsburgh Steelers showed me a look that I've never seen, and yet they had. He said, so I went back, and not only did I watch every cut-up of every game, I would watch every cut-up of preseason games.
That's crazy.
Because I wasn't going to allow them to show a look in exhibition game number 1 or number 2 in week 8 against me. And if Dick LeBeau, who's a legendary defensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers, has since retired, but will introduce Troy Polamalu this weekend at the Hall of Fame. And Peyton was like, I'm never, ever going to be up there and say that. Well, they showed us a look that they just haven't ever run before. Oh, no, I'm going to go through all the tape and all the film to where I know that they can't show me a look that I have yet to see.
Isn't that, I mean, that's what we've learned from talking with Jeff Duncan out of New Orleans and reading his book on Peyton and Breeze. That's how Drew Brees approached his craft. It's how Peyton Manning approached his craft. And I feel like we haven't really seen a expose, so to speak.
Do you think that Baker Mayfield approaches?
Well, that's what I was about to say. I feel confident Brady approaches it the same way.
Sure.
And I think what's the similarity between all three of those guys? They didn't rely on. They had innate natural talent, but it wasn't the type of innate natural talent that was highlight reel that made them not rely on anything else.
That's why where you're going is what Bartu says all the time. The NFL doesn't develop you.
Yeah.
You have to go in there and sit there on your own, like Drew Brees did, like Jeff Duncan tells us in the book.
Yeah.
Peyton and Brees. Brees would come in on his off day just as early as the coaches, stay for 11 hours, and look at film.
Peyton was doing the same
thing.
thing.
They don't develop you.
Yeah.
It's not this world is so off the charts from college, and it should be. I mean, we have high school coaches who do a great job developing and coaching players, and college coaches. But this deal, all the players are the same. And that's why
it's the personal work you put
That's
in,
why Dave Bartu is adamant. Hey, Mac Jones, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, all these quarterbacks that were drafted, they'll have to do it themselves. Will they get good coaching? Absolutely. But they'll have to invest so much time, like Peyton Manning talked about the opposing QB who said, hey, they had never showed that look before. Oh, they had. It was just in a preseason game. We're live in the Bank Plus studio. The show is powered by Mississippi Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center and MississippiSportsMedicine.com.